Nikki asks, do you have a specific shot in mind before you go for an outing, or is it just a general idea? And Homer asks, can you describe the process leading up to a shoot? For example, target species, location choice, and tools used to find locations, scouting, setup at that location, etc. Okay, so all the same sort of question there, and there's a lot to answer about that. So generally speaking, I target species all the time. I don't ever just walk out into the forest like this and wander around. I shouldn't say ever. I almost never just come out into the forest like this or anywhere and just wander around and see what I'm gonna find. I used to do that, and every once in a while it's still fun to do that. But generally speaking, if I'm doing something like that, I'm scouting. I'm not out just trying to get really good photos at that point. So for scouting, I start online with eBird and my past database of photos of sightings and that sort of thing, and I target a general area. I also do some research on whatever bird I'm going after and knowing what kind of habitat they live in, nest in, and feed in. So those are kind of the general areas. Most importantly, kind of nesting and feeding are the two important ones. That means it's going to kind of narrow down my search for the type of habitat. So for example, in the forest right here, I'm not going to be looking for marsh birds, you know, that's just not going to happen. They're not going to show up here. This is going to be songbirds and that sort of thing, you know, woodpeckers, even some of your backyard birds will be kind of found out here. So once I've narrowed down the search using online tools like eBird, talking to friends, and using my photos from the past, I'll have a targeted area that I want to go, or at least a type of habitat. And then it's going to be a matter of figuring out locations I can visit frequently. When it's going to be something a little bit further away, I'm going to look for a place that has more of a concentration. But locally, if I can visit that location multiple times, or a bunch of different locations that have similar habitat and try and find the birds, that's going to be my best opportunity to revisit over and over again and find and photograph them. So the next step is going to be thinking about an area that's going to look good photographically. Some places may be great because they have a lot of birds, but they're going to suck photographically. They're just not going to look great. You know, maybe out here the foliage is just too dense. I need a little bit more open area. There's all sorts of different conditions that can make photography really tough, even if the birds are there. So that's where the scouting comes in. The scouting comes in to A, find the birds, and then B, it comes in to find a good location that will look nice in photographs. So because I'm a photographer first, not a birder first, the location, the way it's going to look, the way it's going to photograph, that's much more important to me. So, you know, if I'm going to be photographing something on the ground, I'm going to be looking for really good ground level access with nice clean views out to an area and good backgrounds, good foregrounds. If I'm going to be photographing something on the water, I'm going to be looking for a shoreline that I might be able to get low access to, or I'm going to be looking of where I can get in the water. If I'm going to be photographing out here in the forest, I'm going to be looking for a habitat that has some open areas, maybe with some perches by themselves. I'm going to be maybe looking for specific types of perches, you know, certain kinds of branches, trees, shrubs, those kinds of things that will look good in the photos, that have good background separation. All that stuff is coming into play when I'm out scouting. And so that's the type of thing that I'm thinking of when I'm actually just wandering around during the day looking for stuff. That's always just scouting. I usually have my camera with me to just document the birds that I do see so I can keep a record of them, but I'm not actually going to really kind of hone in and concentrate. So once I have all that scouting done and now I'm going to go back and actually photograph the birds, that's when I get a lot more specific. So these outings are going to be very targeted to the lighting, location, foreground, background, and species. So that's when I'm going to really pay attention. Is it going to be overcast? I'm going to go to this spot. Is it going to be sunny? I'm going to go to this spot. It's going to be staying in one general area for a long time, sometimes spending hours with the same bird. This morning I was out in the marsh and I spent about 2 hours laying on the ground next to some puddles just to make sure I could photograph some seaside sparrows or clapper rails in the puddle and getting a nice reflection. That was a semi-targeted outing because I wasn't going for just one species. There was two that hang out in that area. I know that's a common area for both of them, and I actually did get to photograph both of them in the water and around the water. So that was a great thing. But for that example, I had already been there a couple of days prior, seen the setup with the puddles, seen those birds there, so I knew there was a really good chance I could go back again and find them. And so that day I had scouted it. It was later. I had shot another location earlier, had a really good outing, and then the sun was out, it was too bright to take photos, so I went to this second location, scouted it, realized, hey, the birds are here, the light sucks right now, I can't take photos. If I come back on another day when the lighting is good, I can probably get some really good photos. And that's exactly what happened this morning. So I planned this outing this morning based on my previous scouting experience. So the short answer to your question is I spend a lot of time prior to actually going out and photographing these species, researching online, looking at my own past photos to find when and where I've seen the birds, and then actually going out and scouting the location to see where it's going to look good to photograph them. All that preparation is what goes into the one actual photographic outing when I go out and then I stay in one spot usually for a very long period of time and target that species or group of species that hang out in a similar habitat in a specific location. And sometimes it's as general as, if I was out here, it would just be, all right, whatever species are hanging out in this general area of forest, I'll work with them. You know, earlier in the season, it would be pine warblers, some red-eyed vireos, and a mix of other songbirds, maybe some woodpeckers mixed in. So I would target all of those, listen to what I would hear, but just generally stay in the same kind of general area. I'm not just gonna hike miles and miles and see what I come across. It's going to be kind of find a good spot and stay there. It can be as semi-targeted as that, or it can be as specific as this morning I went to one exact puddle, actually 2 puddles, that I went and stayed and sat alongside for 2 hours waiting for seaside sparrows and clapper rails to get in front of. So that was very targeted. I wanted overcast light, I got overcast light, and then I got some really good shots with that. I hope that answers your question. Thanks so much for asking them.
Thanks so much for submitting questions, and if you have a question you'd like to ask me about wildlife photography, hop on over to my website at rayhennessy.com and submit the question there, and I might just choose it for a future episode. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you like everything I've been sharing here, and I share a ton of other stuff on my website, blog posts, articles, other instructional videos that aren't even available on this YouTube channel. You can also subscribe to the email list on my website to get exclusive tips, tricks, and offers. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll have more to share again soon.